Welcome back again, Mother Duggas. Today, in my car. 04 Expedition with a 5.4. Problem? Battery light came on. Cool. Let's check it out. Right here we have multimeter. You don't need anything fancy. This one's normally at work. At rest, 12.3 volts. Not bad. It's a new battery. I put it in a week or two ago. And I have it set to DC because that's what these run on, 12 volt DC. Let me start it up and we'll see what the voltage does. Got it running? Yes, 11.85. Should be about 2 volts higher than that while it's running. Now, that's no good. So, we saw while it's running, it's only putting out 11.8 volts. Should be between 13 and 14. Mid-13s or so. Normally, it's a good idea to replace both at once, the alternator and the battery. I didn't do that. I took that gamble, and this is what can happen. Now, if it was a good alternator, it'd probably be all right. It's 2 years old. It's an Amazon special. You know, it happens. That's what you get. That's why it's good to get better parts a lot of time. The old alternator worked like it should. It didn't like 20 below zero up in Wisconsin. It was screaming at me, but it still worked. Me being the pack rat that I am, I kept it. Yeah, there's probably leaves and stuff in it. Doesn't sound that great, but I know it worked when I had it on here. So I figured, hey, why not change it out? So here we are. Let's go ahead and get an alternator changed out. And another thing, the reason I'm doing this, putting the old one on, is to test it, to test my hypothesis. But there's still snow and ice on the ground, and this is Alabama, and we don't have that. The plows and the saw trucks and all that. So everything's pretty much closed down. Another reason I want to say, hey, what's it going to hurt? Just throw the old one on, see what you do. So you start off by taking this beautiful cover. I don't have any of the little plastic clips on here, just from years of taking it off and all that. Yes, I should get plastic clips, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that are normally there. Once you have that, you tilt it up, pull that off to the side, and you'll see the radiator shroud. Mine's broken. Should probably hit up a junkyard before that. The alternator is back in there. So to get to it, we'll take off the air intake. Now, it's pretty simple. This just flips forward. You bring it forward some more. Slide it off, and that's where your air filter goes. If you haven't changed the air filter in a while, might as well do it. You're right there. You have one electrical connector right here. 2 vacuum lines up here. And back on the throttle body, that's 8mm typically. Undo that. And then underneath here, there's also an electrical connector. All right, anyway, getting this off is just 8mm, typically. So that's loose. Depends how long it's been since somebody's had it off. I just had it off, so it came out easy for me. Now, back here, you can either go fishing for the connector that's back there, or just set this off to the side. I'm opting to set this off to the side. Now you can see the alternator a little bit better. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 10 millimeters there. And then give me a moment. And then down here, you have another 10 millimeter right behind the belt. And then another one back there behind the belt. Those are the studs for the alternator. The ones up top are just a bracket keeping it stable. Before you go trying to take off the power wire, which is this one right here, and then this is a command wire, you need to disconnect the battery. For that, the factory, it's just 8 millimeter. I'm opting to take off the negative terminal. Doesn't matter, negative's easiest. Now, once that's off, this is something you don't have to do. I just like blocking that off to make sure it doesn't pop up midway through, so you don't have a complete circuit. Once you have that out of the way, come on in here and remove this. This is the hold down bolt, screw, nut, whatever you wish to call it, for the hot wire. This is what sends juice to the battery. Again, battery is disconnected, so we don't have any arcing issues to worry about. Take the nut, put it off to the side, pull this off. Yes, I checked to make sure that the voltage here and the voltage at the battery were the same, to make sure there was nothing weird in there. Now for the connector for the trigger wires, if you can get your hands down in there and get a little tab on it, fantastic. I can't do that. But if you have, say, a pick or a little pocket screwdriver, you can get in there, push it, and maybe if I can do this one-handed, push it in, pull it up. Un momento. It's much easier to remove with two hands. Here is the connector. That is where you have to push down in there to remove it. Now, you pull this straight off the stud that is on that bolt and get that harness out of the way so you have more room. Well, you have to do that to get that one out, but that way you have the space for everything else. Now that you have that off, you can take this bracket off now, or you can take it off later. It doesn't really matter. I'm just taking it off later, or maybe now. I haven't made up my mind yet. Now you have to be careful whenever you tighten these down, because what they thread into is a coolant tube, pipe, whatever you wish to call it. You break that, the entire intake manifold has to come off. It's not a fun job. I did it on this one because mine was leaking. And yeah, was not cheap. Very long day. Now, if you're this close to this bracket like I am, you get it backed off enough to hopefully get it by hand, or you can be smarter than me and use a short socket, not a deep well. I'm just using a deep well because, well, I'll have to get that stud off eventually, and I'm not. That way I don't have to switch out sockets as often. Yes, I have power tools that I can use for this. But I'm not at work, so I'm not doing the whole flat rate thing. And not everybody does. And that's okay. You don't have to. You can do a lot of things with a basic tool set. I mean, this is a Tecton ratchet off Amazon, and it's really nice. You know, sure, Snap-on, Mac, Matco, Cornwell, all that has good stuff. I have some at work. I have one at the house. It's not a requirement. So it's always something just keep in mind. It's not the tools that make the mechanic. It's the knowledge and what you do with the tools. So this bracket is off. Put that off to the side. And let me get my ratchet for the belt tensioner. Okay, down. Here is the belt tensioner. Keeps the belt tight so everything spins like it should. It has a 1/2 inch square indentation cut into it that you use to release tension. Now, I have this ratchet. It's just a 1/2 inch drive, long, non-flex head from O'Reilly's. It's like $35. Works great. When you have it, you move it towards the center to release tension. Enough tension to slip the belt off the alternator. Belt's off. I'm leaving it where it is. I'm leaving the ratchet on the tensioner. That way, everything's about in the same place where it needs to be. Now, this is one of our 10 millimeters for the stud. There's the other one. Let me get those backed off, and I'll be right back. Okay, access to those isn't bad or anything like that. That's not why I dipped out. It's just easier to do with two hands sometimes. So now that I have them loosened, I should be able to pull the alternator right up. Now you'll have to move the upper radiator hose back while you lift it. So let me do that because that's another two-hander. Okay, I have that out. It spins pretty well. You can hear it, but it doesn't much matter right now. This is where it sits. Those are those studs. You don't have to take them all the way out or anything crazy. You back it off enough just to get the alternator loose and get it out. Can you take them all the way out? Sure. It's not as fun to get it back in if you do it that way. Grab the old one that I'm putting in. Yay. See if I can move it in here one-handedly. Now I have it sitting on the studs there. Let me go ahead, get those tightened back up, and I'll also put the bracket onto this one. Something I didn't think about before, and I figured I should mention, I put the upper bracket on first, got those started, and when you take any of the bolts out, there's witness marks. There's going to be a clean area where the bolts were sitting. I put the bracket back and tightened one down when I found that area to make sure the angle of the alternator was right. And this is why I like this ratchet. Click. Because you can use it kind of like a screwdriver. See if that one's still a little finger loose. Click. And now for here, for the belt, you bring it back over to the middle and feed the belt back onto the pulley. So something that happened with me, and I figured I'd share it. When you take the belt off, it goes slack and it can come off any other pulleys. You want to make sure before you start it or anything, and while you still have access, the belt is still routed properly. Down here, I noticed the belt was not on the tensioner properly. Looking farther down, hard light, the belt is not on the AC compressor like it should be. If I were to start it up how it is, the belt could either pop off or start to shred. Something to always check for whenever you go to put a belt back on after doing something like this. Okay, I'm back. I didn't figure anybody wanted to hear me grunting and groaning for a few minutes because, well, my wife probably doesn't either, but hey, she puts up with me. Belt is sitting properly, proper. Belt routing is good. Normally, if you have the sticker, this one has the sticker showing the proper belt routing if you're ever in doubt. If not, there's plenty of resources out there online that tell you. So, now that we have the new alternator installed, which most of the time will actually be new, clip goes towards the back of the engine. Click. All the alternators I've gotten in the past have come with a new stud nut. This one is no different. Well, the old one had one, the new one had one. Put that on. I think that's a 12 or a 13. This one is a 13. Your mileage may vary. I have that tightened back up. So now I shall reconnect my negative cable. Put everything back together and then give it a start. We'll see what it do. Okay, welcome back. Round 2. So I put the old alternator on. It was screeching. It was terrible. Nobody wanted to hear that. So I bit the bullet, went to O'Reilly's, got a new alternator. So let's get it started and see what the running voltage is. So yes, that looked a little high, 14.5. The battery was really low, so it's gonna put out more. Once the battery is charged properly, the output voltage of the alternator will drop some. Like just sitting here with it off, you see the battery going down. That's normal. It'll balance out to what the actual voltage is. And I have some lights on, which doesn't help either. So, Thank you so much for watching and putting up with me and all that. And remember, it ain't tight till the Ugga meets the Dugga.